On the 6th anniversary of my marriage to my wife, Willow Scott, the unforgettable ex-boyfriend she'd always pined for came back to the country. Everyone in the city knew that Willow and her ex had a passionate whirlwind romance in college, but their families tore them apart, forcing her into an arranged marriage with me. After we married, Willow channeled all the bitterness of her lost love into hatred for me. For 6 years, she was as cold as ice. Now she was gleefully preparing to rekindle her old flame, oblivious to the fact that I, her legal husband, was about to die. 1. I sat on the sofa in the pitch-black living room, the hand holding my cigarette trembling slightly. On the coffee table was a meal I had cooked myself, along with a wedding anniversary cake I'd bought especially for Willow. But I had waited for her all day. It was nearly midnight, and she still hadn't come home. I irritably opened my phone, only to see that a friend of Willow's had just posted an update. The caption read, "Hoping that this time the lovers finally get their happy ending." I zoomed in on the photo. In a karaoke room, my wife, her cheeks flushed, was leaning against another man. On the man's wrist was a purple heart tattoo, identical to Willow's. A sharp pain shot through my chest. I knew instantly who this man was. He was Ethan Price, the ex-boyfriend Willow could never forget. I had always known that in the eyes of Willow's friends, she and Ethan were the ones made for each other. I was just the shameless homewrecker. I tapped on my chat with Willow. The last message was from me, asking her a question. "Today is our 6th wedding anniversary. Are you coming home?" More than 10 hours had passed, and she still hadn't replied. I leaned back on the sofa, my eyes shot with red. I'd smoked an entire pack of cigarettes without even realizing it. When I reached for another and found the pack empty, I pulled out the gift I had intended to give Willow, a rose quartz gemstone ring. I had called in a lot of favors, asking a friend to source the gemstone from a mine abroad. It had cost me a great deal of effort. I let out a bitter laugh. Willow probably didn't need it now. After all, her ex-boyfriend was back. In the past, if I had found out Willow was with Ethan, I would have stormed into that karaoke bar and dragged her home. But now, I slumped back against the sofa and shakily pulled a medical report from my bag. The words stared back at me. Late-stage stomach cancer. My hand holding the report trembled. I remembered being in the hospital, the doctor's grim face as he told me the cancer was terminal. I had at most 6 months to live. Yes, my time was up. As cruel as the truth was, I had to accept it. I no longer had the time to wait for Willow to look back and see me. Even so, a foolish sliver of hope lingered. I opened my phone and sent Willow a message. "Are you coming home today? I'm waiting for you." I wasn't asking for much, just to spend our last anniversary together before my life ended. That would have been enough. This time, Willow replied quickly. "Can't, something came up at work, I'm not coming home." Not coming home, something at work. Even now, she was still treating me like a fool. The last of my hope shattered. I crumpled the report in my hand. Sometimes I really wanted to ask Willow what I even was to her. If she didn't love me, why had she agreed to marry me in the first place? The marriage alliance had been her family's proposal, not mine. I was in college in the States at the time and had no idea there was someone else in her heart. I only learned about her history with Ethan long after we were married. At 2 in the morning, I couldn't stop myself from calling her. A man's voice answered. I recognized it as Ethan's. "Where is Willow?" I asked coldly. Ethan's voice was dripping with contempt. "Willow? Oh, she's already asleep." Before I could say another word, he hung up. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a new message. A photo of Willow and Ethan lying in the same bed, asleep. The sight sent a surge of hot rage through me. I hurled my phone across the room, shattering it against the wall. The next morning, Willow finally came home. As she opened the door and her eyes met mine on the sofa, I saw a clear flash of guilt. "Where were you last night?" I asked, already knowing the answer, but still hoping deep down that she might choose to tell me the truth. 2. Hearing my question, Willow's expression soured with impatience. "Sincere, will you ever stop? I told you last night I was at the office. Is that so? A mirthless smile played on my lips as I tossed my phone, displaying her friend's post in front of her. Willow, is your company headquartered in a karaoke bar? Do you enjoy leaning on other men so much? Is that what you call working overtime? He's not just some other man, she said, instinctively defending Ethan. A bitter taste filled my mouth. Of course Ethan isn't just anyone. He's your ex-boyfriend, isn't he? So now that he's back, you just couldn't wait to be with him, is that right? Willow's gaze turned icy. The guilt had vanished, replaced by a complete lack of remorse. Sincere, you disappoint me. You're a grown man. Can you stop being so hysterical, so suspicious all the time? Ethan just got back yesterday. I was just at a party to welcome him home, that's all. And I stayed at a friend's house. So please, don't project your filthy mind onto my perfectly innocent relationship with Ethan. Ha! Innocent, I scoffed, getting to my feet. I grabbed her arm as she tried to walk to the bedroom, but then I saw the red mark on her neck. My reason snapped. Willow, what do you take me for? You were the one who agreed to marry me. If my family hadn't bailed out your company, do you think the Scott family business would even exist today? Enough. Willow shoved me furiously. I stumbled and fell to the floor. I tried to get up, but I hadn't eaten in over 24 hours, and a dull, throbbing pain was starting in my stomach. My face grew pale, and a cold sweat beaded on my forehead. But Willow didn't notice. Or perhaps, even if she had, what would have changed? In her eyes, I was just an obstacle to her true love. Her eyes blazed with anger. Sincere, do you know what I hate most about you? It's that high and mighty attitude. Yes, I admit it, you saved our family's company, but I paid for it with my marriage and sacrificed my love. What more do you want? Slinging her bag over her shoulder, Willow turned to leave again. I was still on the floor, clutching my abdomen as the pain blurred my vision. I tried to make her stay. No, Willow, I'm begging you, please don't go. But the only answer I received was the cold final click of the door shutting behind her. For some reason, I was suddenly filled with an overwhelming sense of despair. Just before I blacked out, an image flashed in my mind. The first time I ever saw her, at a gala. I was standing in the audience, holding a glass of red wine, watching Willow on stage, barefoot in a white gossamer dress, dancing. To me, she seemed to glow. It was in that moment I knew my heart was hers. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, the sterile smell of disinfectant filling my nostrils. The housekeeper had come home and found me unconscious on the floor. She'd frantically called for an ambulance. My assistant, Daniel, stood by my bed, his eyes red. Mr. Ford, you have cancer. Why didn't you tell us? It's terminal. What was there to say? I whispered, my lips pale. Hearing this, my assistant, a grown man, choked back a sob. Mr. Ford, don't say that. Medicine is so advanced now, your illness can definitely be cured. Just as I was about to speak, Willow walked into the room, her face a mask of indifference. Daniel wiped his eyes and stood up, heading for the door. Mr. Ford, I've already told Mrs. Ford about your condition. I'll let you two talk. I frowned. I had never intended to tell Willow about my cancer, but now that she knew, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of curiosity. How would she react, knowing I was sick? I never expected her first words to be dripping with annoyance. Sincere, do you really think this is funny? Getting stomach cancer? Do you think a stunt like this will get my attention? From the day I married you, I made it perfectly clear. You might have my body, but you will never have my heart. I sat on the hospital bed, my heart plunging into an icy abyss. It took me a long moment to force the words out. You think I'm lying to you. What else? Sincere, you're nothing like Ethan. At least he never lies to me. But you're nothing but a liar. You probably even bribed the hospital to forge these test results. Her eyes were filled with scorn. What, Mr. Ford? Did you really think you could fool me with this? In her mind, I suppose Ethan was a cloud in the heavens, and I was just the mud on the ground, destined to be trampled on. Fine. If that's what you want to believe, there's nothing I can do. I leaned back against the bed as a wave of nausea and pain churned in my stomach. Willow watched me, my face contorted in agony. She hesitated for a second, but then she spoke, her voice a cold warning. "Sincere, you'd better not play this kind of trick too often. It would be a real joke if you actually ended up with cancer because of it." With that, she turned and walked away, her high heels clicking on the floor without a moment's hesitation. I was left alone in the hospital room. For some reason, I felt a profound chill, a cold I had never felt before, not even in all my years with Willow. 2 months passed. In that time, it was as if Willow had vanished. I went to her company, only for HR to inform me that she had already resigned. The news was pathetic. I suppose in Willow's heart, only Ethan was worthy of such a reckless, all-or-nothing devotion. Just then, my phone rang. It was Willow's grandmother, Agnes. She wanted Willow and me to come over for dinner. I didn't want to disappoint the old woman, so I agreed. It wasn't hard to find Willow. After a few inquiries, I drove to a derelict warehouse on the edge of town. When I got out of the car and opened the warehouse door, I was met by the piercing sound of an electric guitar and drums. Willow was on a makeshift stage, dancing hip-hop, her face caked in heavy makeup. She was so different I almost didn't recognize her. Ethan was strumming his guitar relentlessly. A pang of pain hit me. From a distance, they really did look like a better match. Willow's friends saw me first. Their eyes were full of hostility. They had all known each other since they were young and had even formed a band. "What are you doing here, Mr. Ford? How can you be so thick-skinned? If you hadn't broken up Willow and Ethan, they'd probably have 3 kids by now. What are you doing here? Don't you know this is our secret hideout?" Willow wasn't happy to see me either. She never liked me meddling in her affairs. "Willow, don't be like that. Sincere is your husband, after all," Ethan said. A shadow flickered in his eyes as he spoke, but as another man, I could clearly see the calculation behind his words. Sure enough, hearing him say that only made Willow's attitude toward me worse. "Sincere, I'm warning you, don't overstep, or you'll have no one to blame but yourself when I divorce you." "Divorce?" I sneered. Well, she'd get her wish soon enough. I was going to die soon anyway. "It was your grandmother who asked you to come for dinner with me. Go or don't, it's up to you." I turned and left that evening. As expected, Willow showed up at the Scott family home. It made sense. After all, her grandmother had raised her. We sat at the dinner table, playing the part of a loving couple. But halfway through the meal, after taking a bite of braised pork, Willow covered her mouth and rushed to the bathroom to be sick. Her mother, Eleanor, hurried after her. Her grandmother, Agnes, just beamed at me conspiratorially. "I think Willow's expecting." "Oh, thank heavens. You two have been married so many years and Willow's finally pregnant. Seeing you two so happy in your marriage, I can finally rest in peace." My smile froze. If I recalled correctly, Willow and I had been living separately for 6 months. How could there be a child? When Willow came out of the bathroom with her mother, her guilty eyes met mine. In that instant, my heart sank to the bottom of a pit. After leaving the Scott residence, I drove Willow directly to the private hospital my family owned. Willow resisted. "Sincere, what are you doing? Are you doubting me?" "I told you, it's just an upset stomach. Have you ever respected me at all?" Tears welled in her eyes. It was strange. In the past, a look like that would have softened my heart immediately. But this time, my mind was crystal clear. I let out a sarcastic laugh and showed her the intimate photo Ethan had sent me of the 2 of them in bed. "Willow, do you think you deserve my respect right now? How is that possible? How do you have this picture?" Willow's face went deathly pale. "Ethan sent it to me," I said coldly. "You're lying. He would never do something like that." She instinctively defended him. Seeing her like this, I felt a sudden, profound exhaustion. The blood test results came back. My gut feeling had been right. Willow was pregnant. "Sincere, let me explain. This baby, it was an accident." Willow couldn't believe the results either. She was pale as she tried to explain. I leaned against the wall and lit a cigarette. Willow frowned. I knew she had always hated the smell of smoke, but at this point, I no longer cared. I took a deep drag, looking intently at Willow, this woman I had loved for nearly a decade. I let my gaze fall weary. Willow, I'm tired. Let's get a divorce. Let yourself go and let me go too. 4. When Willow heard I wanted a divorce, her expression was one of pure astonishment. Sincere, you can't be serious. You want to divorce me? Because of this baby? I gave a bitter smile. Isn't that reason enough? Willow, you're always saying I tore you and Ethan apart. So today, I'll grant you your wish. If Ethan is your destiny, then today, I'll set you free to be with him. No, Sincere, who do you think you are? You can't just decide to get a divorce. I'm telling you, I won't agree to it. Willow was pale, her defiance a desperate front. I glanced at her stomach and suddenly felt so tired. We had been married for 6 years without a single child. I had even suspected it was my fault and had gone to a fertility clinic for tests. But the results showed I was perfectly fine. Thinking back now, it was obvious Willow had been secretly using birth control all along. Sometimes I felt so pathetic. Willow had slept with me for 6 years and never gotten pregnant, but it took less than 3 months with that side piece, Ethan, for her to conceive. It's not up to you. After all, Willow, you were the one who betrayed our marriage first, weren't you? The pain in my stomach was starting again, but I forced myself to stand tall. Willow saw the resolve in my eyes. She bit her lip, her own eyes red. Fine. You said it. Sincere, Ford, you'd better not regret this. She was the one who cheated, yet she acted as if I were the world's greatest heartbreaker. I won't. I turned and walked away without a second glance. I knew she was probably waiting for me to come back and console her, but she didn't understand. A man whose heart is dead has no energy left to care about love. I had my lawyer deliver the divorce papers to Willow. The day she signed them, I received an anonymous text message. Sincere, if this is what you want, I'll grant you your wish. At that moment, I was in my office, reviewing documents. Reading the text, I turned to look out the floor-to-ceiling window. The sun was setting, about to dip below the horizon. I fell into thought. I was 28 years old. I was tired of the kind of sham marriage my parents had. All I'd ever wanted was to find someone I truly loved and spend the rest of my life with them. But now, it seemed that was just a fantasy. Willow's words made me stare at the setting sun, lost in thought again. Besides a lover's heart, what else did I really want? Just then, my eyes landed on a magazine photo of the aurora borealis. I suddenly remembered a childhood dream, to see the romantic northern lights in Iceland with the person I loved most. After marrying Willow, I had suggested it many times, but she always made excuses. I thought to myself, if fate has decreed that I cannot see the aurora with someone I love, then I'll just go by myself. At least seeing the northern lights before I die would mean my time on this earth wasn't a total waste. As time went on, my health deteriorated rapidly. My face and body had become skeletal. I told my private physician, Dr. Evans, about my plan. He was strongly against it. Mr. Ford, given your current physical condition, if you go to Iceland to see the aurora, it's very likely you won't make it back. I shut him down with a single sentence. What does it matter? I'm going to die even if I don't go to Iceland. Dr. Evans, this is my dying wish. Please grant it for me. Sigh. All right. Dr. Evans finally gave in. Before leaving for Iceland, I had my driver take me to see Willow one last time, from a distance. Her pregnancy was showing now, and her face had a soft maternal glow. I heard that to make up for her past regrets, she had even cut ties with the Scott family to be with Ethan. Although Ethan had studied abroad, he was still just a third-rate guitarist. The money he made in a month wasn't even as much as Willow used to spend in an hour. It was a good thing she still had the half of my assets I'd given her in the divorce. Otherwise, having quit her job for him, she would probably be living in abject poverty. I was about to leave when, to my surprise, Willow spotted me. Sincere. She called out my name. My heart twisted as if a knife were being turned in it, but I stopped. Willow walked over, holding Ethan's hand, her face a picture of happiness. Her tone was filled with contempt. Sincere, it looks like you haven't been doing so well these past few days. You've lost so much weight. 5. Ethan, standing beside her, chimed in smugly. Honestly, I have you to thank, Mr. Ford. If it weren't for you setting us free, Willow and I never would have gotten back together. Don't mention it. I have a thing about loyalty in relationships, I said coldly, turning to leave. But Willow grabbed my wrist. She had clearly noticed something was wrong. A flicker of panic crossed her face. What's going on? Your wrist. Why are your bones so sharp? I looked at Willow and felt a wave of exhaustion. The whole city probably knew I had cancer by now, yet she was the only one who refused to believe it. Sometimes I wondered what I had done to make her see me as such a liar. It's none of your concern. We have no relationship anymore. I tried to pull my hand away, but to my surprise, Willow suddenly pushed up my sleeve. When she saw the bruises and puncture marks on my arm and the back of my hand from the IV lines, I saw shock and panic in her eyes. A bitter, self-mocking thought rose in my mind. Even now, I was still foolish enough to think she was panicking for my sake. I really was the world's biggest fool. This, sincere, how did you end up like this? Willow stared at me in disbelief, as if a horrifying thought had just occurred to her. Could it be you really have stomach cancer? That's impossible. How could you suddenly get cancer? Ethan stepped forward to support her. Willow, don't get worked up. Be careful with the baby. But Willow shoved him away, her hands gripping my arms tightly. Sincere, tell me it's not true. Miss Scott, I shouldn't have to remind you again. We are divorced. As I spoke, Willow suddenly doubled over, clutching her stomach. It hurts, Willow. What's wrong? Ethan asked, his face a mask of concern. The stress probably brought on a complication. I had my driver call an ambulance for her, then prepared to leave. After all, Willow and Ethan were now legally married. It was neither my place nor my responsibility as her ex-husband to get involved. But to my surprise, Willow still clung to my hand, refusing to let go. No, don't go. Sincere, stay with me, please. I'm so scared. Her eyes were filled with terror. Looking at her, I found it almost laughable. I couldn't understand what I had ever seen in a woman like this. I regretted it. If I had known my life would be this short, I never would have wasted nearly a decade on Willow Scott. Willow, you need to grow up. In this world, no one is going to indulge you unconditionally forever. I coldly pulled my hand from her grasp, got into the car, and drove away. The next day, while I was getting my visa for Iceland, Willow showed up at my house again. I told the staff to turn her away. I was exhausted now, needing oxygen and chemotherapy just to get through each day. Even though the housekeeper told her I wasn't home, she stubbornly waited downstairs for me. I watched her from the third-floor window, standing under the blazing sun. I was about to ask the staff to call the Scott family to come and get her, but just then a metallic, sweet taste surged up my throat. I stumbled to the bathroom and leaned over the sink, coughing up a large mouthful of blood. Seeing the crimson stain, I fumbled for the medicine in my pocket and swallowed it. The pain in my stomach finally subsided a little. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, my sallow skin, my emaciated frame, and sighed. I ran a hand through my hair, and a large clump came out. I sighed again. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before I was completely bald. When the Scott family finally came and forcibly took Willow away, I was sitting in a dark room. I could hear her crying out as she left, begging to see me just one more time. I didn't understand. By all accounts, she had never loved me. She should have been thrilled to learn I was terminally ill and about to die. Why was she putting on this hypocritical show now? But at this point, I no longer wanted to see her. Every glance at Willow was a reminder of how foolish I had been, how I had let her play me for a fool and enjoyed every minute of it. 6. The next day, I boarded a plane to Iceland. Accompanied by my private doctor and a professional guide, I finally fulfilled my wish that night, gazing up at the Icelandic aurora. By then, I barely had the strength to lift a finger. Looking at the brilliant lights dancing across the sky, I seemed to forget my fear of death. My mind filled with memories of Willow from the moment we met. The final image that lingered was of her, pregnant, holding Ethan's hand. At that thought, All the deeply etched memories of her finally began to fade. My vision dimmed, and with the aurora as my companion, I slowly closed my eyes. After I died, I discovered that souls really do exist. But for some reason, I didn't end up in the underworld. Instead, I found myself tethered to Willow. I was baffled. Before I died, my will had stipulated that my ashes were to be buried in Iceland. Why was my soul now stuck by her side? Willow was now almost 5 months pregnant, but her face was pale and drawn. I noticed she was once again wearing the wedding ring I had placed on her finger myself. Ethan came home. Seeing Willow's state, his face darkened. "Willow, what is this? Sincere Ford is dead. You're my wife now. You should be taking care of me and giving the Price family an heir." Looking at Ethan's smug, contemptible face, I truly couldn't understand how an it girl like Willow had ever fallen for such a man. "Take care of you? Ethan, you're such a hypocrite. You took money from my family to leave me and go study abroad. And then you had the gall to lie and tell me you were forced to leave. You bastard. You're so shameless you make me sick." Willow's expression was numb, filled with despair. Hearing this, Ethan's face flashed with guilt. What are you talking about, Willow? You can't just accuse people like that." Willow emotionlessly produced a recording her mother had left behind. It documented how Ethan, upon hearing that Willow's mother would give him $50,000 and secure his admission to a music conservatory, had eagerly accepted the deal. His lie exposed, Ethan's face turned ashen. I stood beside Willow, a silent spectator. I never thought I'd get to see such a drama unfold after my death. "Willow, let me explain," Ethan said, flustered. "Save it, Ethan. I was the fool for not seeing through your hypocrisy before. You're nothing but a con man." Tears streamed down Willow's face. "I can't believe I hurt Sincere for a man like you. I regret it so much. If I hadn't been so stupid, I wouldn't have missed my chance to see Sincere one last time." Willow began packing her things, telling Ethan she wanted a divorce. But to my horror, Ethan, who had always been so compliant with her, lunged forward. Ignoring her pregnancy, he slapped her viciously across the face. "You dare hit me?" Willow stared at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. I rushed forward instinctively to stop him, but my hands passed right through him. Only then did I remember. I was just a ghost, unseen by anyone, unable to do a thing. "So what if I hit you? Willow, do you still think you're some rich heiress? Don't forget, the Scott family already disowned you in the papers." Ethan grabbed a fistful of her hair, his voice turning vicious. "And can't you women be a little more magnanimous? Why do you think I left in the first place? It was to pursue my dream of being a guitarist. Your dream. Oh, to hell with your dream, Ethan. Do you think I'm still that naive? That was just another one of your lies. The real you is greedy and heartless. The only person you've ever loved is yourself. It's like they say, you want the credit for being a saint after you've already sold yourself out." In that moment, Willow finally saw Ethan for who he truly was. My own feelings were a complicated mess. But what did it matter? I was already dead. Enraged by her words, Ethan lost all control. In a fit of inhuman fury, he kicked Willow squarely in the stomach. 7. That one kick sent a gush of blood streaming down Willow's legs. I rushed to her side in a panic, trying to help her up, but Ethan's assault continued. It was as if a demon had been unleashed within him. He rained punch after punch down on her body. I tried desperately to stop him, but my hands passed through him again and again. Ethan beat Willow until her face was bruised and swollen. He stood over her, sneering, "Tisk. Willow, you really don't get your situation, do you? Sincere Ford is dead. There's no one left in this world to protect you, and I've already transferred all your money to my account. You're broke now. Willow, I'm telling you, if you're obedient, I might be merciful and leave you some scraps to eat. But if you're not, don't blame me for forgetting our past and beating you like an animal." Hearing his words, I wished I could become a vengeful spirit and kill him on the spot. This pathetic excuse for a man who only knew how to hit women, he was the real animal. Willow managed a sarcastic smirk. "In your dreams, Ethan, you want me to obey you? Maybe in your next life. if you come back as something lower than a dog." The words had barely left her mouth before he slapped her again. Ethan seemed to get a thrill from the violence, his expression growing more and more savage. "Bitch, what right do you have to talk to me like that? That sucker Sincere treated you like a queen, and you still betrayed him and got knocked up with my kid. Willow, you're just a promiscuous tramp. You'd better accept your fate. Even your own parents don't want you now. I'm the only one who'll have you. You should be grateful."
"Oh, by the way, are you wondering why you got pregnant even though we used condoms?"
A look of smug triumph spread across his face. "It's because I poked a few holes in them, of course. How else was I going to get this baby? After all, a woman like you is a once-in-a-lifetime cash cow, and so easy to fool. I had to make sure you had my baby, to tie you down for good." Hearing this, the hatred in Willow's eyes slowly turned to utter despair. She started mumbling to herself, her tears finally breaking free. "I'm sorry, Sincere. I was wrong. I'm sorry, Sincere. I can't believe I hurt you for a man who is worse than scum." I knelt beside her, my own spectral eyes filling with tears. No matter what had happened, she was once the woman I had held in the palm of my hand, a woman I couldn't bear to hurt. Now, seeing her beaten like this by that monster, I was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions. The blood was flowing more heavily now. Ethan, probably afraid of a murder charge he couldn't get out of, finally called for an ambulance. But by the time they got Willow to the hospital, the baby was already gone. After losing the child, Willow didn't hesitate. She called the police and had Ethan arrested. After 2 days in the hospital, I followed her as she made her way back to the villa where we once lived. Willow pushed open the heavy front door, her eyes filled with a nostalgic longing. But for me, standing beside her in this house so full of memories, I felt only a profound weight, because I knew with absolute certainty that I no longer loved her. Still, seeing her so battered and having lost her child, I couldn't bring myself to hate her. My only wish now was to find a way to leave her side, to be free. In life, she had trampled on my love and my dignity. I didn't want to be bound to her in death, even if she was sorry. Perhaps it was fate. As Willow sat slumped on the floor by the sofa, her hand brushed against something underneath it. It was the ring I had intended to give her on our anniversary. I must have thrown it away in a rage after Ethan answered her phone that night. I never thought it would have just rolled under the sofa. 8. I watched as Willow's eyes reddened when she saw the pink gemstone ring. She tremblingly slipped it onto her ring finger. It was a perfect fit. She stared at the ring, and a single tear fell from her eye, landing on the stone. "Sincere, you wouldn't even see me before you died. Is this my punishment? Sincere, I regret it. I really, truly regret it. I started regretting it the moment you said you wanted a divorce. I was just too proud to admit it. That day I brought Ethan to see you, I was just trying to make you angry. Sincere, I was wrong. I was so wrong. For all these years I was trapped by my obsession with the past. I was so obsessed I didn't even realize when you had made your way into my heart." Willow sobbed uncontrollably. "Sincere, can you please forgive me? I was so wrong. After you died, I missed you so much. But no matter how much I missed you, I could never even see you in my dreams. I don't even know where your ashes are." As she said this, the hatred for Ethan in her eyes grew more intense. "I am guilty, but Ethan won't get away with it either. If he hadn't used such despicable means, maybe you and I would still be married. Even with the cancer, I could have been by your side." Hearing her words, a sense of dread washed over me. Willow left the villa wearing the pink ring I had meant to give her. I watched as she went to a hidden alley and bought a bottle of poison. Then, with a serene smile, she went to the police station to bail Ethan out. In that moment, I knew what she was planning to do, but Ethan didn't. He thought he had beaten her into submission. His eyes were full of smug satisfaction as he walked out of the police station. He gave her stomach a condescending glance. "You'd better do a better job next time. If you can't give me a child, I don't want you." Willow smiled meekly. Okay. Back at their apartment complex, Willow prepared a lavish meal for Ethan. I watched as she mixed the poison into the food and the wine. Ethan, full of self-satisfaction, took a large gulp of the wine she poured for him. He had always been able to manipulate her so easily that he had no guard up at all. The poison worked quickly. After a few sips of wine, Ethan clutched at his throat, feeling as if he were suffocating. He pointed a disbelieving finger at Willow. You poisoned me." Willow, her face a blank mask, went to the kitchen, returned with a cleaver, and began hacking at his body. She didn't stop until he was a bloody, motionless heap on the floor. I had witnessed a murder, and my heart was heavy and conflicted. Ethan deserved to die, but I had never wished for him to die at Willow's hand. My heavy heart turned to panic when I saw Willow pour herself a full glass of the poisoned wine. "Willow, what are you doing? You'll die," but no matter how I tried to stop her, she drank the entire glass. As the poison took hold, the intensifying pain caused her to fall from her chair to the floor. I watched her gasp, blood frothing at her lips as she kept repeating my name. "Sincere, I'm coming to find you. You have to wait for me." With those final words, she died right in front of me. By then, I was weeping. After Willow died, I felt the shackles binding me to her disappear. A white mist rose around me. I saw Willow's soul rise from her body. She was running frantically toward me, her mouth moving, desperately trying to say something. But I no longer wanted to understand. I turned my back on her and, without a moment's hesitation, walked into the light of reincarnation. The end. My CEO wife, Victoria Johnson, was addicted to a clam opening game, so much so that she played it with her childhood friend Ethan Hayes throughout an entire business negotiation. I watched it all with cold detachment. When I returned to the office, I announced our divorce in front of all the employees. My father-in-law, Arthur Johnson, slapped me hard across the face, his expression furious. "You bastard, my daughter can play games if she wants to. All the company's money is hers. What gives you the right to criticize her? You're a good-for-nothing." I clutched my stinging cheek and began to pack my things to leave the company. Seeing this, Victoria walked over, her face etched with concern. "Hubby, if you don't like it, I'll stop playing. Don't be angry. Are you really divorcing me just because I like to play a game?" My voice was ice. "Yes. What other reason would there be? I'm a billionaire CEO. What's wrong with playing a game with my employees? It's not like I'm breaking the law. On what grounds are you divorcing me?" With each question, Victoria's expression soured. Finally, she slammed her hands on the table and shot to her feet. "Sincere Smith, you owe me an explanation." I lowered my gaze, my tone flat and emotionless. "I'm sick of it. I want a divorce. It's that simple." At these words, her face grew even paler. The surrounding employees whispered among themselves, their words reaching my ears. "Who does Sincere Smith think he is? A live-in son-in-law should know his place. Miss Johnson buys him all sorts of luxuries and now he throws a fit over a game. He's a total control freak. How terrifying." I didn't bother to refute their words. In all honesty, we celebrated some kind of anniversary more than 200 days a year. In the 3 years of our marriage, I had received more luxury watches and high-end cars than I could count. Not only that, but she always cooked lavish meals for me personally and never asked me to share in the housework. She came home every night and was never linked to any scandals. Everyone thought she was madly in love with me. A billionaire CEO, devoted to just one man. She was indeed very good to me, but I truly wanted a divorce. "Here are the divorce papers. Sign them quickly and we can part on good terms." I handed the documents to Victoria. Her eyes immediately reddened, and the defiant attitude vanished from her face. Her voice trembled. "Hubby, let's talk about this at home. I don't want to divorce you." I remained indifferent, my eyes showing not a flicker of emotion. Seeing this, her childhood friend, Ethan Hayes, lunged forward and punched me in the face. "Sincere, how can you be so despicable? How has Vicky ever wronged you? If she didn't love you, with your background, you wouldn't even be worthy of shining her shoes." My head snapped to the side, and my cheek began to swell. I could taste blood. Victoria rushed to my side, her face filled with pain as she reached out to touch my face. I shoved her away. The force was so great that she stumbled back several steps, nearly falling. My father-in-law, who had just arrived, saw this and roared, "You bastard, if our family hadn't paid for your education, do you think you could have gone to college on your own? When you were on your knees begging to marry my daughter, you swore you would be good to her. Was that oath just a joke?" Everyone stared at me with a mixture of confusion and contempt. I calmly finished packing my things and met my father-in-law's gaze. My voice was frigid. "Victoria Johnson spends entire days playing her game, so busy she has no time to care for me. Who would want such a filthy woman?" Victoria froze, her eyes instantly rimmed with red. "Hubby, how could you say that about me? My body is covered in needle marks from trying to conceive a child for you. I have to get more than a dozen injections every month, each one taking at least an hour. What else am I supposed to do if not play a game to distract myself? If you weren't the one with fertility issues, I wouldn't have to suffer like this." As she spoke, she unbuttoned her cuff, revealing a landscape of black and blue bruises on her pale arm. The onlookers were stunned, then their outrage turned on me. "She's a powerful CEO, willing to harm her own body to give you a child, and you still want to divorce her? Miss Johnson not only gave you a senior management position, but also let you slack off at the company every day without contributing a thing. What more do you want?" I let their accusations wash over me. Someone even threw a cardboard box at my head, but I didn't retaliate. I simply put my laptop in my backpack and turned to leave. The elevator chimed, and Victoria caught up to me. I glanced back at her, then pulled a woman who was just stepping out of the elevator into my arms. The woman, Jasmine Miller, gave me a playful, shy look. "Who is she?" Victoria stood frozen, her voice hoarse. Ethan rushed forward and grabbed my collar, his face a mask of fury. "You heartless bastard, you dare bring your mistress to the company, Smith. Are you even human? Vicky was completely devoted to you, and this is how you repay her." I kicked him away, my arm tightening around Jasmine. Facing the accusatory glares of everyone, I said calmly, "Victoria Johnson, I'm divorcing you. I don't love you anymore, so stop pestering me." Victoria stared blankly at the scene, reaching for my arm, but her father stopped her. He looked at her, bewildered. "Vicky, there's no need to hang yourself on a rotten branch. There are thousands of men better than him. Let's just find another one, okay?" Victoria looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "But I love Sincere Smith. There can be a million good men, but he's the only one I love. Did something happen recently? Tell me, I'll fix everything for you. Just please, don't divorce me, okay?" Her voice was thick with sobs. The powerful CEO had lost all her dignity in a single day. But I remained unmoved, leading Jasmine into the elevator. Once we were out of the building, I let out a long breath. Jasmine looked at me, confused. "Miss Johnson seems to love you very much. You're divorcing her just because she plays a game, and you hired me to act this out just to make it happen. Isn't that a bit extreme?" I shook my head, then nodded, my expression shifting from resolve to resignation. "Look at this, and you'll understand everything." In my hand was a string of pearls. The so-called clam opening game, naturally, involves opening oyster shells to get pearls. Some shells are pink, some are dark. What you get is all up to luck. But that wasn't the game Victoria was playing. I spoke cryptically. The clam opening game she plays isn't about opening oyster shells. I showed her a set of pictures on my phone. Jasmine's expression shifted from confusion to shock. She said, incredulously, "You're saying Miss Johnson is the clam?" I put my phone away, my gaze turning sharp as I looked up at the 108-story office building. After the divorce, I would make sure everyone knew Victoria's secret. I would destroy everything she had and make her pay the ultimate price. After leaving the company, I went straight to the Johnson residence to pack my belongings. I didn't take any of the gifts she had given me, only a small USB drive and some of my clothes. Just as I finished packing and was about to leave, I ran into Victoria, who was just returning home. She saw me and froze for a moment, then forced a smile. "Hubby, you're back. Let me make you dinner." I bought a lot of groceries. When she saw my impassive expression, she pulled an exquisite gift box from her pocket. Inside was a priceless pink diamond. I recognized it instantly. It was the centerpiece of a Zurich auction, sold for an astronomical price of $520 million. I never imagined Victoria had been the one to buy it. Seeing my stunned expression, she explained softly, "Didn't you say you loved this ring? I went abroad and bought it myself, as a gift for our 4th anniversary. Hubby, please don't divorce me, okay? I really do love you." I gave her a cold look and turned to leave. Seeing my resolve, she finally broke down, screaming, "What did I do wrong to make you treat me like this, Sincere Smith? I'm the sole heir to the Johnson family. I'm beautiful and rich. The line of men who want to marry me stretches all the way to France." I shook my head and said, "Then go marry one of your suitors. I'm begging you, just leave me alone." She bit her lip and grabbed my hand. "I'm pregnant with your child." The word child was like a bolt from the blue. Seeing me stunned, she tried to throw herself into my arms, but I blocked her. In the scuffle, Victoria suddenly fell to the floor, her face contorted in pain. "It hurts. It hurts so much." She clutched her stomach as bright red blood began to spread beneath her. I stood there, motionless. "Sincere Smith, call an ambulance for me, please. For the sake of my pregnancy, help me." Her phone had fallen and the screen was cracked. It was dead. She crawled towards me, sobbing, clutching at my pant leg, her voice a desperate plea. "Save my baby. I took hundreds of shots to conceive him. He's the fruit of our love. Don't be angry anymore. Please stop this." Pain twisted her features, tears and snot mixing on her face, making her look haggard. I watched her suffering for a moment, then took a step back. "What do you and the baby have to do with me?" Because I stepped back, Victoria lost her last bit of strength and collapsed. With a loud thud, her head hit the hard edge of a table. A gash opened on her forehead, and a line of blood trickled down. I walked directly to the door just as Ethan arrived. He glanced into the room, and his anger erupted. He threw a punch at me. "You beast, you scum, that's your wife." "Your child," I scoffed, blocking his attack and kicking him hard in the stomach. Ethan wanted to fight back, but was more concerned about Victoria. He started fumbling for his phone to call for help. He lifted Victoria, who was lying in a pool of blood, his eyes filled with anguish. Watching this scene, I couldn't help but feel a dark sense of irony. I used to be the one who cared for Victoria the most. If she got so much as a small cut, I would bandage it carefully. Now, her fragile state only filled me with disgust. Before leaving, I met Ethan's hate-filled gaze and smiled. "Since you care so much, you can be her husband and the father to her child. On my own authority, I'm giving them both to you." After that day, I started preparing my materials. The Johnson family called me countless times. I rejected every call. Finally, Victoria, at the end of her rope, sent me a text. "Fine, a divorce it is. Come to the company right now, Sincere Smith. Even if you come crawling back to me, begging for a reconciliation, I will never forgive you." I ignored the last sentence and glanced at the calendar. The time was right. It was time to close the net. When I arrived at Victoria's office, her face was still pale. Her eyes held a mixture of hatred and a sliver of hope. She cleared her throat and said, "If you really mind me playing games that much, I can consider reducing my game time." "Reduce her game time?" I burst out laughing. "Do you think I mind you playing games? I mind that you're addicted to the clam opening game." A flash of panic crossed Victoria's eyes, but she quickly composed herself. "The clam opening game is like opening a mystery box. The pearl you get is different every time. If you're going to be petty about even that, then I have nothing more to say." I gave her a half smile and shrugged. "Say whatever you want. Just sign the divorce papers." She picked up the papers, glanced at them, and her brow furrowed. "You want me to leave with nothing?" The words sounded ridiculous even to her. Her look was pure mockery. "The Johnson Corporation is a family business. Under no circumstances would it fall to an outsider like you. Besides, you cheated on me during our marriage. It's good enough that I'm not suing you for damages, and you have the audacity to ask me for money?" My gaze remained calm. You must leave with nothing. This is non-negotiable. At that, Victoria's temper finally exploded. She slammed the divorce papers onto my head. In your dreams, her shout drew the attention of many employees. Immediately, someone looked at her with pity and said, I can't believe this sincere Smith is out of his mind, daring to ask Ms. Johnson to leave with nothing. If I remember correctly, wasn't he just hugging some other woman in the company not long ago? How can he have the nerve to demand money? It's unbelievable, Ethan. Mixed in with the crowd, sneered, I think he regrets the divorce, so he's proposing these outrageous terms to stop Ms. Johnson from going through with it. I've seen plenty of scheming punks like him from small towns. Absolutely disgusting. I didn't care what anyone around me was saying. I scanned the room and walked up to Victoria. Her face was a mask of scorn. Sincere Smith, you're the one begging me for a divorce right now. I do not accept these terms. I lowered my eyes and stared at her intently. You have to accept them. You should have been prepared for this the moment you started playing your clam opening game. My words were met with her disdain. What marriage law states that it's illegal for me to play a game? You pushed me, causing me to be hospitalized for a week. That's assault. I could have you thrown in jail. Just as she finished speaking, several police officers walked in. They looked serious and showed us their badges. Just as everyone assumed I was about to be arrested, they turned to Victoria. Victoria Johnson, we've received a report that you are involved in group debauchery, a serious violation of the law. Please come with us. Victoria took a step back, her expression stiffening, though she quickly regained her composure. Officers, I don't know what crime I'm supposed to have committed, but I know that everything requires evidence. Furthermore, I don't believe I've done anything of the sort. Someone must be deliberately framing me. Ethan was even more indignant. That's right, RMS Johnson is a billionaire CEO. Why would she do something like that? It must be someone who wants to cash in on a divorce and is trying to frame her. His words were leading, and all eyes turned to me. I remained expressionless as if it had nothing to do with me. Victoria, however, put on a helpless look and walked up to me. Sincere, if you want money, I can give you a lot of it. There's no need to blow this up, and if you don't want a divorce, we can go back to how things were, okay? Her words sounded incredibly reasonable. A wave of murmurs went through the crowd. I don't know what lucky star Sincere Smith was born under to have Miss Johnson so devoted to him. He's caused so much trouble, yet she still won't leave him. I bet he's the one who called the police. If he can't have her, he'll destroy her. How vindictive. Hearing this, Victoria looked even more aggrieved. Officers, may I know who the informant is? I really haven't broken any laws. It must be a malicious report. The police officer looked at her, then at me, and said, We cannot disclose the informant's name, but someone did provide substantial evidence. Ms. Johnson, we conduct our investigations based on evidence. We wouldn't have come here without it. He took a stack of photos from his pocket and laid them on the table. They only showed Victoria clinging to Ethan in a dimly lit setting. Their bodies were obscured by the darkness. However, several other men were standing around, eyeing Victoria greedily. Although not everything was captured, the scene was undeniably lewd. The crowd erupted. Holy crap, did Ms. Johnson cheat on Sincere? Is that why he's retaliating? Just looking at the photos, it's definitely suspicious. There must be more to this story. Victoria looked at the photos, her brow furrowed. She kept glancing down at them, then up at me. After a moment, she walked up to me and slapped me hard. Sincere Smith, I knew you were behind this. She turned to the police. I'm reporting Sincere Smith for drugging me. On our anniversary, he gave me a glass of red wine, and I lost consciousness after that. In the photos, my eyes are closed, which proves I was a victim. Those other men must have been hired by Sincere, and Ethan was only holding me to protect me. This explanation was also quite believable. People started speaking up for her. I watched this unfold, my eyes growing darker. What proof do you have? She sneered. Proof? The proof is that I have transaction records of you buying illegal substances. I didn't want to make a big deal out of this. to leave you with some dignity. But since you insist on framing me, I have no choice but to make this public." Victoria held up her phone, showing screenshots to the crowd and the police. They were purchase records for multiple aphrodisiacs. The recipient's contact number and payment account were clearly mine. After carefully examining the phone, the officer looked at us. "Ms. Johnson, Mr. Smith, both of you are persons of interest and will have to come to the station. We need to ascertain the facts before making a judgment." Victoria's eyes were red, her expression one of resignation. "Sincere, I didn't want you to go to jail, but I never knew you could be so shameless, not only drugging me, but then trying to use it as blackmail to make me leave with nothing." The onlookers began to murmur again. "This Sincere Smith is truly shameless, drugging Miss Johnson and then trying to swindle her out of billions. Yeah, just a moment ago he sounded so convincing. We almost misunderstood Miss Johnson. Poor Miss Johnson, a weak woman being bullied like this. Thank goodness Ethan was there to protect her. If you ask me, Miss Johnson should have divorced him long ago. Ethan is her true match." I rolled my eyes, feeling nothing. "All of your evidence is fake. Filing a false police report and wasting public resources is also a crime." Victoria rubbed her red eyes, sniffled, and pointed a finger at me. "The evidence is right here. How can you still argue?" "Sincere Smith, I was so wrong about you." Amid the dispute, we were both taken to the police station. Once there, I pulled aside the officer who brought us in, whispered a few words, and handed him a USB drive. A short while later, we were both summoned to an interrogation room. "Miss Johnson, did Mr. Smith really purchase these substances and use them to commit an illegal act against you?" Victoria pouted and rolled her eyes. "Officer, I already showed you the evidence. If you don't believe me, summon Ethan Hayes. He can prove my innocence with a loud bang." The officer slammed his hand on the solid wood table. "We gave you a chance. Are you still not going to tell the truth?" "We will be summoning Ethan Hayes, but as a criminal suspect." Victoria's face turned deathly pale. She kept muttering, "What are you talking about? It was Sincere Smith who harmed me. You should be putting him in jail. Why are you saying Ethan is a criminal?" The officer leaned forward on his hands and sneered. "You've played a lot of dirty tricks. Do you think the police are fools? Although the purchase account belongs to Mr. Smith, the delivery address was your company, and the usage history of the account shows that you were the actual user." Victoria scoffed. "You're being ridiculous. Is this how the police solve cases? On what grounds do you determine that I was using the account? You need evidence. If there's no evidence to prove I bought it, then the account holder bought it." The officer's face hardened, and he roared at her, still arguing, still not giving up. "Are you? Look at this." He turned his computer screen towards her. On it was a set of original files. He opened them one by one for her to see. "These are the original files provided to us by Mr. Smith. We have verified their authenticity. The chain of evidence is complete. Here are your chat logs as the buyer, and here are the chat logs of you planning this with Mr. Hayes. Group debauchery, false accusations. You are truly beyond saving. The evidence was irrefutable." Victoria's face drained of all color. She stumbled back several steps, completely at a loss. Then, as if struck by a thought, she cried out, "I'm pregnant. I request to serve my sentence outside of prison. You can't put me in jail." Seeing her pathetic state, I felt nothing. "A child?" I smiled. "That has nothing to do with me. Take it up with my lawyer." A week later, Ethan was also summoned and stood trial with Victoria as the main suspect in the group debauchery case. On the eve of the trial, Victoria and her father showed up at my door. "Sincere, are you still angry with me? I was just deceived. In my heart, I love you. I only had a physical connection with them. Emotionally, I only love you. Can you forgive me, please?" Her father chimed in, "Come on, Sincere. What woman doesn't make mistakes, right? And my daughter is carrying your child. Can you really be so heartless as to see her go to prison?" I remained silent, staring coldly at these two shameless people. Seeing my silence, Victoria came forward and hugged my arm. Even though I forged the evidence in a fit of anger, I never really wanted you to go to jail. It was only because you were so set on divorcing me. I was forced to do it. I smiled and looked at her belly. How far along are you? She stiffened slightly, then said, 2 months. It must have been that day we went to the hot spring resort. I nodded, indicating I understood. Then I said calmly, we should go to the hospital for a checkup to see if the baby is healthy. Hearing this, a hint of color returned to Victoria's cheeks. She smiled. I knew you still loved me. I promise I'll be good to you from now on. Her father nodded eagerly beside her. That's right, the baby is what's important. I'll call the family. We'll all go together. At the hospital, I went to the payment counter and got the forms. You go get the examination. If the baby's condition is good, I'll forgive you. Watching Victoria walk towards the examination room, I sneered inwardly. Forgive her? In her dreams. I wouldn't just make her pay. I would make her entire family atone for their sins. After a while, Victoria's relatives began to arrive one by one, but her father stuck by my side like he was afraid I'd run away. Meeting my disgusted gaze, he gave a weak smile. Sincere, Victoria was in the wrong here. Later, in front of everyone, I'll transfer 10% of the company's shares to you. Don't worry. As long as you go to the police and file a statement of forgiveness for Victoria, I won't allow her to treat you poorly ever again. Looking at this hypocrite, I almost lost control and started screaming. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. Just a little more time. I will make you all pay for what you did all those years ago. Arthur, the thing is, I had a vasectomy 6 months ago, and Victoria is still trying to trick me into believing she's carrying my child. Tell me, how am I supposed to forgive her? The moment I spoke, the entire area fell silent. The relatives quickly gathered around. Now, son, don't be so certain. A vasectomy can fail. The child is surely yours. That's right, that's right. We watched Vicky grow up. She would never lie. There must be some misunderstanding. The child is innocent. This is a little life we're talking about. Arthur's face flushed with relief. He said, Sincere, don't worry, I will give you a proper explanation for this. As soon as the child is born, I'll have a DNA test done. If it's really not yours, I'll teach her a good lesson. I sneered internally, but kept my face impassive. Victoria, holding the lab report, had just walked out of the department and heard everything. She pressed her lips together, a wounded expression on her face. Of course, the child can only be yours if you're just trying to humiliate me. There's no need for this. You're just using this vasectomy story to frame me. What normal man gets a vasectomy? Stop lying. I smirked and pulled out the lab report from the bottom of the stack. Red letters on it clearly stated, low similarity between specimen A and B, no kinship indicated. Now, how are you going to explain this? Victoria snatched the report from my hand, examining it closely. Impossible. How could you get a test done before the baby is born? I checked the time on my phone. Just a little longer. Everything would be over soon. Modern medicine has allowed for DNA testing via amniocentesis for years. What else do you have to say? A wave of gasps went through the room. Victoria stood there, stunned. After a long moment, she turned back to me, her face ashen. No, it's not like that. I really do love you. She looked down at her belly in a daze, only slowly coming back to her senses. She stumbled towards me, her voice choked with tears. I have money. I can give you lots of money. I can support you and the child. If you don't like the child, we can give him away, okay? I know I was wrong. Her father chimed in from the side. The hospital must have made a mistake. I've never even heard of DNA testing through amniocentesis. Let's wait until the baby is born and then we can discuss it. I've decided to transfer half of the company's shares to your name. As compensation, that should be enough, right? The relatives started buzzing. My God, half the shares must be tens of billions. Sincere Smith, you've hit the jackpot. This kid has probably never seen so much money. He's just standing there stunned. And Vicky is still so beautiful. She just made a little mistake. You're getting off easy, kid. The crowd practically surrounded me, chattering endlessly while Victoria crouched nearby, sobbing quietly. How interesting. It was as if I had become the villain. I pointed at Victoria. When she was playing her so-called clam opening game, letting a dozen men play with her while she acted as the clam, why wasn't she crying then? When she was strutting in front of the police accusing me of framing her, why wasn't she crying then? Victoria looked up at me, her face contorted. She stood up and tried to hug me, but I dodged her. I really do love you. I only had a physical relationship with them. Spiritually, I've only ever been with you. My stomach churned. No matter how many times I heard those disgusting words, they still made me want to vomit. Get lost and you listen to me. You, Victoria Johnson. I never want to see you again for the rest of my life. The sight of you makes me want to gouge out my own eyes. You're so damn disgusting. Ignoring their reactions, I stood up and pulled open the door to the hospital room. Arthur was still shouting behind me. You've got guts. Sincere Smith don't think you'll get a single penny from the company. From our family. I turned back and gave him a cold look, then stepped aside to let the plainclothes detectives behind me enter. Arthur stared in shock at me and the police, a terrible premonition dawning on him. What's the meaning of this? Why did you call the police? You want to drag my daughter away right now? I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Your company? Ha. I raised my finger and pointed it at his nose. I'm reopening the case. My parents didn't die in a car accident. They were murdered by you. Arthur's jaw dropped. Before he could say a word, the police apprehended him. Their expressions were grim. Police investigation has confirmed your connection to a murder case from years ago. Please come with us. Victoria, seeing what was happening, lost her mind and rushed forward, trying to block the police. Stop, you must be mistaken. Why would my father kill anyone? Why would he kill that poor boy's parents? You can't just take someone away without evidence. Seeing the police were unmoved, Victoria turned to me. You said something, didn't you? I'll get an abortion. I'll divorce you, okay? I'll agree to anything. Just go talk to the police, please. Go. Looking at Victoria's desperate face, I felt like I was seeing myself from over a decade ago. I loved her because, in my lonely and grief-stricken youth, she was the only one by my side, telling me again and again, Sincere, I will love you for a lifetime. No matter what, I will always be by your side. I'll never change. I had heard so many sweet confessions. The more I heard, the more despair and grief I felt when I learned the truth. 2 months ago, I had taken Victoria to a hot spring resort. That night, I drank a little too much and went to bed early. She tucked me in, placed a glass of warm water by the bed, so thoughtful and considerate. But I woke up suddenly in the middle of the night and saw the silhouette of Victoria standing by the French windows, on the phone. Her expression was one I had never seen before, cold and calculating. The truth about his parents' death will come out sooner or later. It's better to make him fall in love with me so he'll protect our family's empire for a lifetime. Besides, I'm so good to him, he should be grateful. It's not like I was the one who killed his family. As she spoke, she stared out the window, her aura chilling. I froze instantly, but my instincts told me not to make a sound. After hearing the entire call, my heart pounded in my chest. My gut told me the person she was talking about was me. After returning to the city, I secretly hired someone to investigate the truth of what happened all those years ago. When I learned that the Johnson family was responsible for my parents' deaths, I began to gather evidence. During the investigation, I found out about Victoria's love for the clam opening game. It was heartbreaking, but it also made sense. She and her parents shared the same blood, promiscuous and despicable. The evidence I submitted was more than enough to reopen the case and make the Johnson family pay. I watched the Johnson family's frantic expressions and allowed myself a small, grim smile. The evidence against Victoria's parents was solid. They were sentenced to 20 years in prison, and the Johnson Corporation underwent a massive restructuring. She, for her part in the group debauchery, only had to serve 5 years. The moment I walked out of the police station, tears streamed down my face. 5 years later, Victoria was released from prison. By then, I had become a leading tycoon. So, when I saw her disheveled appearance, I was a little shocked, but also calm. "Why are you here?" The moment I spoke, she dropped to her knees with a thud. The years in prison had worn her down. Her face was weathered, and her hands were covered in a thick layer of calluses. There was a time when her daily skincare routine alone cost thousands. Now, without that nourishment, her skin had aged considerably. Victoria's voice was choked with emotion. "You've already sent my parents to prison. Let the grievances of the past generation end here. But can you, for the sake of the love we once shared, for the sake of the years I doted on you, give me another chance?" I looked down at her from my superior position. From this angle, I could see every subtle expression on her face. Times had changed. We were no longer in the same class. "When you say you loved me, are you referring to when you were pregnant with another man's child behind my back, or when you were playing your group games?" At the mention of the clam opening game, a flash of shame crossed her face. Honestly, I still couldn't understand it. She had money and beauty. She could have had any man she wanted. Yet she chose to be with those obvious lowlifes, defiling her own body. If she hadn't been so foolish, if she had just discreetly sponsored a few young actors, I might never have found evidence of her cheating. She bit her lip. "Give me $1 million and I'll never bother you again." The news of my engagement to my fiancée, Grace Williams, was already public. I knew she was here to threaten me. But I looked down at Victoria and smiled. "I can give you 10,000, not a penny more." I took a check from the desk, wrote it out for $10,000 and threw it at her. Victoria scrambled to catch it, just as she heard my cold voice. Get out. A week later, I finalized my engagement with my fiancé, and we got our marriage license. But on my wedding night, Victoria showed up again. "If you won't give me the money, I'll tell her everything about our past, a despicable and cruel person like you who would harm his wife's parents. Do you think she'll still want to marry you when she finds out?" This time I didn't waste words on her. I had security throw her out. If she got a taste of success from me, she would keep coming back again and again. This wasn't a charity, and I wouldn't tolerate her repeated threats. The next morning I saw a patch of fresh blood on the street outside my residential complex. My driver said with a sigh, "A woman just tried to jaywalk across the street and got run over by a truck. She died on the spot." I looked down and noticed a hair tie lying next to the bloodstain. It was the same one Victoria had been wearing yesterday. I had been wondering how to deal with her, but it seemed fate had taken care of the menace for me. My wife, sitting beside me in the car, was moved by the news. What a poor soul. Her hand gently covered mine, her face full of tenderness. "Sincere, I had breakfast prepared for you. I told my assistant to deliver it to your office." At her words, I smiled. I squeezed her hand tightly, a flicker of fear for what could have been passing through me. Now, everything was finally over. All that was left was to live a long and loving life with the person I truly loved. Only then would this life not have been lived in vain.